Hello everyone and welcome to Your Divine Destiny. I know it's been a very long time since I've posted anything on this channel. I've had to really kind of lock in for a little bit. It's been a very busy past year or so for me. I have finally graduated with my master's and I am officially practicing as a mental health clinician. But even though I thought I was going to be done with school, I decided to torture myself a little bit more. And I jumped right into a doctorate's program. Okay, I know I said tortured, but honestly, after I got my master's, I realized that my passion for psychology in the mental health field is so deep that I wanted to pursue and do more research and really deepen my knowledge and education on anything that has to do with the mind, the field of mental health, and neuroscience, and just all the more books and reading. I was like, I guess I didn't get enough of it. And even though that does take up a lot of my time, but I did not forget about this channel and doing what I love so much, and that is coming on here to talk about mental strength with you guys. Over the past year or two, I have had the greatest honor and pleasure to work alongside so many ambitious people and learn from them. I've also noticed that there are so many ambitious women, honestly, ambitious people overall, that really struggle to relax. So I wanted to kind of bring this up as a subject of topic today because as we all know how important it is to give ourselves the grace of rest and relaxing. I thought maybe this is something that other people have experienced and also want to know a little bit more about and just touch on. So I'm going to touch a little bit today on, honestly, the psychology and the importance of relaxing and why it's so hard for ambitious people to do that. A lot of ambitious people think that they struggle with relaxing because they believe that they are too driven. But psychologically, it goes a little bit deeper than that. Many high achieving people learned very early on in life that productivity was tied to safety, love, self-worth, and emotional stability. So instead of feeling peaceful and content and grateful for the things that you have achieved and where you are currently in life, this is where you begin to feel uneasy, and rest begins to start feeling very unsafe for the nervous system. When somebody spends years operating in stress, high pressure, hyper-independence, perfectionism, survival mode, this is where the nervous system begins to adapt to functioning in high cortisol states. And our cortisols, not to be confused with your cholesterol, but the cortisol within our body is our stress hormones. So over time, our brain and our body begins to become accustomed to these high urgency environments, the overstimulation, the constant need for stimulation. And then when things begin to feel quiet or calm and more relaxed, that is when our nervous system begins to signal to the brain that this isn't right, this isn't normal, you should be productive, you should be doing more, and what you are doing right now is not enough. Because that feeling of calm and relaxed and quiet within the body and your environment is becoming very unfamiliar to the nervous system. And the nervous system acts in a way to keep you protected. So when things begin to feel unfamiliar, and this can go into friendships, relationships, your workplace, your nervous system begins to send those signals. And this is where you begin to experience that guilt, the restlessness, and even emotional emptiness when you begin to slow down. This is where your body is no longer receiving the stimulation that it is usually dependent on. Your brain creates strong neural pathways through repetition. So if your brain repeatedly learned that achievement equals approval, success equals safety, productivity equals value, that's when those pathways become automatic within your brain. And that is when you begin to associate rest and slowing down with feeling lazy, like a failure, or like you're just not doing enough. And when you operate from this form of energy, you become completely misaligned with everything going on in your body, with everything that's going on with who you are. And a lot of the times, people struggle with this when it comes to vacation, because when they are in an environment that is supposed to be for them, very relaxing in a time where you can just enjoy yourself rather than thinking about work all the time. Without productivity distracting you, that is when all those unresolved emotions and feelings begin to resurface. So real healing is not about becoming less ambitious. It is about teaching your nervous system that you can succeed without it always feeling like it is in constant danger. And that is where you see the difference between healthy ambition and using achievement in order to emotionally survive. You will then begin to realize that your ambition is coming from purpose rather than pressure. And then you will begin to see how your whole ideology around achieving success begins to change. And what that can look like: needing to rest without feeling like you need to earn it first. Being productive without tying your whole identity towards that achievement. So rewiring your brain and going from thinking, if I stop, I will fall behind, to I can rest and I can still feel safe. Another example is learning to separate urgency from importance. Now, this is where the confusion comes a little bit in this aspect, because in no way, shape, or form are you making things less important to complete in your daily tasks, but you're giving yourself that grace before completing it. So for example, a lot of people, when they see an email or a text, or they feel like when they're speaking with somebody, they need to respond right away and immediately, and it can feel like a sense of panic, like if you don't respond, then that person will think it's not as important. Or sometimes even in conversations with people, and especially conversations that might feel a little bit more serious, you might not be prepared for, you immediately feel like you need to jump and think of a response. And oftentimes that response later, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have said that. Why did I respond that way? And it's going to stick in your mind. This feeling is chronically keeping your nervous system in that fight or flight mode. So before jumping to those tasks, regulate your body. Take a breath before responding to any notification, email, or any responsibility conversation, because when you take that breath, you are allowing that oxygen to go into your brain to be able to function properly. And setting that boundary with yourself to only commit to what you are able to allow space for within your schedule. So when you are going through those tasks and completing them, and in a manner that eventually trains your brain that you actually have the capacity to complete more tasks throughout the day. Now, this isn't going to say that you are never going to feel stressed, you are never going to have a difficult day, and you're never going to feel overbooked or like you're overdoing it. Because at the end of the day, we are humans. These things happen. But it's so important to train and teach your nervous system how to handle these high stressful schedules and situations and things that can come up in our day-to-day living. This will allow your brain to create new neural pathways and not stick your whole identity to feeling worthless if you are not achieving. So to wrap up, create that boundary for yourself. Give yourself that grace. Give yourself that time to really acknowledge when are the moments that you feel like your cortisol levels are spiked the most, and think about how you can reframe your thoughts surrounding stress and surrounding achievement to make sure that completing these tasks every day doesn't feel like it's diminishing your whole mental health. And remind yourself that you are doing the best that you possibly can, and taking the time to even acknowledge the parts of your nervous system that does need that healing is exactly the first step that is going to set you up for achieving everything that you ever possibly wanted to in your life. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I'm going to do my very, very best to make this a weekly thing. If not, just know that they are coming. All right, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.